Well, it looks like we have some guests starting to show up here. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time for this commercial investment meeting that we're about to have. I'm going to let a couple more people show up, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, we are at about 19 folks here, so let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lydell Fleming. I am your real estate guy with the purple tie, and I'm a board of directors member here at the North San Diego County Realtors. And I would like to welcome you guys today to our webinar, Working with Investors and Residential Income Properties. Our presenter today is the esteemed Judy Preston. And just to touch a little bit on her bio and explain to you guys a little bit about who Judy is. Judy has been a real estate broker in San Diego County for over 30 years. Her passion for commercial real estate started in 1999, buying her first investment property in San Diego with the goal of building wealth, just like a lot of our clients and ourselves. Real estate investment, and commercial real estate fueled her desire for more knowledge, working towards earning her CCIM designation in 2010. She will cover that. She's also served on the San Diego CCIM chapter and is past president of the chapter. She serves on a couple of national CCIM commercial committees, and Jody was broker of record for a firm for 5 years while it grew to 180 agents over 7 different offices. She currently works as a broker associate with Ascent Commercial. And now, with no further ado, here's Jody.
Thanks, Judy. Well, that's okay. So I want to thank Shirley Carroll for the Executive Director of Commercial Division for North San Diego County's Association of Realtors. And she works really hard. I worked with Shirley for a few years. I think I've presented 3 different times. And so I appreciate the opportunity, but also her hard work and bringing together some good programming.
I would have to reiterate that. She is amazing. When she puts together these groups and these meetings, she just does not hold back and goes for nothing but the best. So we're very, very excited to have you on board. And in fact, anyone who is interested in staying on afterwards to discuss any haves and wants you have, please put them in the comments and then we'll discuss them afterwards. Floor is yours, Judy.
Great, thank you. So, I'm the only one with the open mic and Lydell, but if you have any questions along the way and type it into the chat, Lydell will let us know near the end and we can go through any questions you have. I don't go into a great deal about what I've done in the past in real estate in San Diego, but I absolutely love and have passion for multifamily, 2 to 4 units, 5 or more. And that's what we're going to talk about today. When I got bit by the bug of investment back in 1999, I happened to take a course in CCIM that was an introductory to investment, and it just blew my socks off. I just had to know more and more. So I'm a big advocate about education and just learning. There's so much to know. I wanted to learn for myself. I wanted to learn to be a good agent for clients, and it's another great resource for you. I have been a residential broker for 30 years in San Diego, but I wanted to embrace also being a commercial agent, and that CCIM programming. I'm not just pushing CCIM, but any great education towards knowing more about investment is invaluable, and it'll help you make more money and help protect your clients. So I'm a real advocate about education. I just wrote something down just to add this before we get started. It's important when you are working residential education market that you get well informed with what's happening at the state level, the county level, the city level. The state with COVID brought in a lot of elements that stopped people allowing to evict or asking anyone to leave their residential properties. That keeps changing from city to county to state. Although the restrictions were lifted last year, like in September-ish, we're seeing still issues with just cause, which is the just cause of a reason you could ask a tenant to leave. There's rent control of rents, of not being able to raise rents more than twice in 1 year, 5% plus CPI. We see Chula Vista on their board right now in the city are looking at even stronger restrictions with protecting handicap and seniors, and really going to be strict in what you can do in Chula Vista. So every area can have different elements. And so it's really important as we learn and invest or take clients from Escondido to North Park to Chula Vista to wherever, that we actually know what the restrictions or the requirements of the rules are present or what might be coming, because all that dictates to cost to running the property or income to the property or dealing with tenants on a property. Also, an example is the city of San Diego. Although the state has a mandate when you sell the property to have your load flow toilets and faucets to be and a water heater strap, the city of San Diego, for instance, has a form you fill out, certificate of compliance, or you can fill out a form that's transfer of responsibility of the toilet retrofit. So in the city of San Diego, in escrow, you have to actually file that certificate. So in El Cajon, for example, does not have that. So if you're going to be working with investors, it's really important to know and to pay attention to what's happening in those locations, and at least alerting your clients, look, new things happen. You know, if you're going to buy in Chula Vista, you're going to buy in El Cajon or the city of San Diego, start to pay attention, client, also to put it on them to also pay attention, because they're the one that's going to own the property long term. Be a really good habit to pay attention along the way during their ownership. Let's get started. I just want to share about the CCIM, just again, what the program is. It's a designation just like the CRS or CCI or the GRI. This is just for the commercial aspect. You have to go through certain classes, and you have to have prove certain experience level to be able to obtain that. And there's a comprehensive exam. It's not as bad as probably the CPA, but I think I cried at the end of it because it was pretty stressful to get it done. Also, the reason I take time out to teach along the way is if you think of donating, this is one of the charities that I like to give back to every year. And so if you think about it, want to donate a little bit of money, I'd appreciate that. You put it over there a little bit, just to say thank you to North County for having this presentation today. So we're feeling good about the market. COVID-19 is definitely changed our world, and we have limited inventory in all classes of real estate pretty much across the board. But we have strong fundamentals in San Diego. These skills that we're going to talk about today are really skills no matter what the cycle's happening, if the market's going up, down, or balanced, level, stable. These tools are used all the time by investors. These are just beginning tools. There's more to this. This is just an hour and 20-minute or so class. So this is just the beginning. If you already know some of this stuff, it's terrific. If I'm strengthening your skill today, perfect. If I'm introducing something new to you, terrific. This is a great place to get started. This is a chart that I showed in 2018. It was done by by Mueller, the developer. The author of this is actually the University of Denver. Mueller is the professor's name. if you see this as a cycle showing expansion, hypersupply, recession, recovery, real estate's a cycle. And San Diego in 2018 in the fall was over here on the left, which was in the expansion phase, which we were seeing increasing rents, people trying to do developing. And we still kind of see that now, but you can see a lot of the parts of the country were actually further over than us on the cycle. So here we are in rents. This chart was built actually in like 1996. In 1996, you're seeing that when you start to be in that expansion area, you're seeing rents are growing, tight market, new construction's trying to be built, and we're still there. And when you go to the chart that was built by Mueller this third quarter of 2021, it's still showing, look at not very many people over here in hyper supply in the country. It's really people are in the expansion zone, and San Diego's still over there. And so we're seeing these strong rents, increasing rents. We're seeing how hard it is to get a rental. People are doing FICO scores and application. It's really tough to find rentals. So that's why you see the state setting rent caps. You're seeing Chula Vista trying to tighten up how you can evict somebody. The just cause, all of that is because of such demand on the rental. So that's kind of important to know when you're talking to a client and they go, well, is this a good time to buy? Should I be waiting? What's going on? You have to know the fundamentals of how strong the market is and why it's strong. And some of these charts are really helpful. And by the way, at the end of this, Shirley will make sure that to send out this presentation to you so you can take these charts and use them. And some of these you can get from the University of Denver, like I said, so you can keep getting them updated. So if you look for tools. So why is San Diego still such a strong place? This is the key element you really got to remember. There's 9 major sectors in San Diego that make us strong. I'm so old that back, I think in 1990, General Dynamics left and they took, 10,000 employees, and they took all the service organizations to that company. And it really took San Diego down, I want to say a major impact to real estate. And since then, all of these other areas have been building and building. The biotech, hospitality has been strong, but even stronger, medical centers, technology, military, all of these things are why we're such a strong base for San Diego to be an ongoing good investment. Population's another thing that Sandag has put this out. This isn't the most current chart, but you can just see the population and the need for more housing is just continuing on for years and years. So that doesn't mean our cycle won't shift and change, and there might be corrections along the way, but we are in a strong county in the country. So location, right? Also, I was just going to mention the feds are talking about raising the the rates, loan rates and that type of thing. A couple times or quarterly this year. We're seeing rent control. All of that's trying to probably temper what's happening, but still we're in an area that's very strong. So this is all positive things to know and to share with our clients. Today's objectives, though, we're trying to get to know what are some basic financial tools that I can share with you that we can talk about, you can ask questions about, to how to understand investment units. We're talking today about 2 to 4 units mostly, because there's some differences between 2 to 4 or 5 or more. So 2 to 4 units. And you have to know the income, the expenses, the condition, the tenant mix, the leases. There's a lot to know in investment. It's not like just selling a house. The units you have to care about, what's the income producing? How strong is it? How do you get it stronger? What can you do to make it safe and work with tenants? So there's a lot to do with that income and expenses. How do you determine the best price? Today, a property goes on the market and sells quickly. But as a seasoned investor or a seasoned agent working with an investor, it's good to know what are the core numbers telling us about that property and how can they strengthen it to possibly get it to be the stronger investment. Today you buy it maybe needing work, tomorrow it's making better money. So that's why we want to know these differences. How to determine the best price and the terms. You have to know loans. In this marketplace, there's a lot of loans. Is it someone that's going to buy it an FHA, a VA? Is it going to be an investor that's going to put 25% down? You have to know what type of loan are they going to get and what are the terms of that loan. Are they going to do a 30-year fix? Are they going to do, depending on what rates do in the next couple of years? It's very important to pay attention. Also, the rate of return. How many of you have had a client say, what's a cap rate in San Diego? What's a cap rate? And you're thinking, oh, well, and you maybe ask somebody, but a cap rate varies depending on the property. Are they talking about a retail property? Are they talking about a commercial multifamily property? What kind of property? What location are they talking about? So cap rates vary. And so you have to know a little bit more about that. And then are their long-term goals? Are they talking about buying it for 1 year and flipping it, holding it for 5 years as their child goes to college at San Diego State? Or are they talking about holding it 10 years? So what is their goals? That's a criteria. And then how to prepare for a 1031 exchange. Why we want to expand our knowledge, I have to do a little bit of a promotion here. We want to deliver standard of care to the clients. And that's why it's so important to get educated and continue to educate. Our consumers are much more educated. If they're asking about a cap rate, they've talked about investing with somebody, they're more educated. They're reading and studying these properties. So we have to. We need to. We want to. They want to make sure we're providing expertise and simplify the process for the investors. We want to foster our personal skills to increase our level of that people can trust us. And then again, meeting the goal, reaching our goal, investor goals. And then I don't need to read all those because you can see them. I put them on the screen for you. But it's exciting. We got to know more about it. And these are the whys. One little quick story, the beta factor. Years ago, I was working with a client. We were getting along really well. Called me like on a Saturday morning. We didn't have the cell phones. This is back a few years, before we had all this quick information. But he called me and said, there's a property available on Bancroft. You didn't tell me about it. And I looked it up. Actually, I looked up the property and I called him back and he said, well, you didn't tell me about this one. And I said, well, it's not on the market. And he says, well, it is. I was just there at a trust sale and the lady had flyers there and she told me it's for sale and she told me the price and you didn't tell me about it. And I said, well, you're right. I didn't know about it. He goes, well, you don't have the beta factor. And I'm like, what's the beta factor? I had to go look it up. And the beta factor is we don't know what we don't know. And that scared me. So that's where I focus on. You got to keep learning. You got to forgive yourself if you don't know an answer to something. But that really scared me to death. And I thought, well, I better get more beta. I got to keep learning.
I don't think I've ever heard that term, beta factor. I'm going to have to add that to my vocabulary.
And then there's the Code of Ethics, National Association of Realtors. If we want to be a residential agent and start working with investors, we've got to keep our knowledge going. If you get a client that says, hey, I want to buy an 8-unit complex, you got to find someone that's good at this type of thing and either work side by side, take a referral fee, or best learn this stuff so that you can take that client on. You got to get more education so you can follow the Code of Ethics and meet the standard of practice taking care of clients. So that's my push on Code of Ethics. What I have to say is what you already know is very helpful. You're in real estate, you're selling, and I don't see each of you or your experience. So I'm just going to generalize. In real estate, we've got our license, but if we've been in the field, we know, I call it product, but we know houses, we know condos, we know neighborhoods, we know a lot of things already. We have market knowledge, but you got to keep building it more. Financing options. We've done the single family homes and the condos, and we've talked to agent lenders, but you got to get even better at 2 to 4 unit with lenders. Are the lenders themselves experts in 2 to 4? You don't want to take a client and use a lender that doesn't know what's happening with 2 to 4 units. It's a different breed of product, and they've got to be good at it. If they're working on it and know it, that's great. If you meet with your client, you got to make sure that the lender they're choosing has that experience. If it's a VA lender, if it's a client that's a VA and they're using a VA lender, they got to make sure that VA lender knows 2 to 4 units. So important. Negotiations you have. You've been buying and you've been representing clients for a while, a long time. So you already have those skills. By having these tools, you're going to get even stronger. One of the biggest elements people have problems in real estate's communication. You know how important it is to communicate, following up with emails, answering phone calls, making calls. So communication skills you're working on. We all can get stronger at that. Patience and knowledge of the contract. I know the RPA just changed. I don't think the RIPA has. I'm sure it's coming. So we got to pay attention on what are the contracts saying and doing. The RPA just changed, and I think 30 plus documents change. So be careful about when the RIPA changes for that also. Education. How do you like to learn? For me, if I see 5 properties in Escondido that are on the market, for me, I want to drive by all 5. I'm old school. I just don't do it on the computer. I like to, if I've got a client, they're going to spend $1 million, I'm going to drive by those 5, take a look at them. What do I think? We analyze properties very well, right? We pull up, we can see a lot of things. To me, it's worthwhile as I'm learning 2 to 4 units or 5 or more, get out and see what the properties look like and are, so that it builds your game, builds your knowledge of what were they. Was it 2 unit, a property with 3 units with a house and a studio and a garage conversion? Did they have offsite, each have an areas outside or parking, really get know what's going on. How do you use observation when you're driving around, observing properties? I just saw a property sell on one side of a street and 2 to 4 units, 2 units sold, and less than 8 weeks later, across the street, a 2 to 4 units sold. So pay attention to what's selling. You might have someone right around the corner that's ready to do something. Practice the formulas I'm going to teach you today, and set up your templates. So getting to the investor, before we can look at financial numbers, we really have to know the investor's motivation. So when they say to me, what's the cap rate? It really comes down to what are they looking for? How do they analyze a property? Why do they choose to invest in real estate? Are they have too much money in the stock market? Or are they trying to build wealth? Are they trying to diversify their investments? Appreciation on a property, or being able to depreciate for better cash flow? Are they looking for a positive cash flow? Some people don't want a positive cash flow. They need a little bit of a write-off. Do they want to support a member going to San Diego State, or to buy a house while they're there? So you really want to know really kind of what are their motivations to buy. Clients' needs and assessments. When you get an opportunity to meet with a client, we get something, they call us, we're like, let's give them this information, go. You really need to sit and talk with them. We can do Zoom calls now. With COVID, it's nice that we can get on a phone one-to-one with someone, but asking basic questions and listening to what they have to say. Really, what type of investment are they considering? If you start the dialogue and listen, it can help critique and help fine-tune what they're looking for so that you can best serve them. Let them tell their story and why. The next page is going to tell you a few reasons why. But determine who's involved in the investment. Sometimes you get a son or daughter that's looking for their parents. Well, if the parents are only going to fly in once they find a property, you better know that up front. So it's good to know who's actually buying the property, who's involved in it. And are they working already with someone, finance, like a CPA, who's giving them information on if they're capable of really getting forward. It gives you the idea of their sophistication as an investor. Really key is, have they purchased investment properties in the past and where? California, we have our strong contracts. You go to another state, they might not use the same strong contracts. They might use an attorney versus an escrow state like California. They might have a difference of what they expect in a title policy. So finding out if they've actually bought property in San Diego or not is another critical issue. Do they own other investments here or where? What type of investment? Why'd they buy that one? Have they spoken to a lender already? Do they understand the terms? What's their source of down payment? Is it in a 401k that they've got to wait 60 days to get it out? Is it, are they selling a property somewhere else? Is their grandmother going to give them the money? Actually knowing if they have the money ready to go. What type of ownership are they planning on? Individual, an LLC, a trust? Are they a 1031? Are they a flipper? You really kind of need to know who's really the buyer and how are they really going to try to invest in that property? Because you need those type of documents. If it's a trust or an LLC, do they have the authority to move forward in that arena?
Judy, will we be able to dive into this specific question a little more later?
Yes.
LLCs
Yes.
and trusts, perfect.
We might have to ask questions about that one. Yes, we could. I don't have that too much in my presentation, but we can near the end.
Okay.
Another thing is 1031 exchange. Someone says, oh, I want to do a 1031 exchange. Well, the question is, are they in a 1031 exchange? Are they in Denver and they're closing tomorrow? Well, there's timelines they've got to close by. Are they selling something but they're in escrow and it's not going to close for 60 days? All of those elements you've got to kind of know so that you can guide them through the process. And how did they choose their last acquisition? Did they use a cap rate, cash on cash? They buy it because it was a trophy property and it's just pretty, So all of those elements are really key before you get started with a client. This is, do they have specific expectations of a rate of return, long-term goals, holding, light cosmetic, fixer, good condition, and what would be the perfect property? So those are all just my suggestions to think through so that when you sit with a client, you really get to the bottom line of what helps carve what investment they're looking for. So determining the desired rate of return, which we know everybody, that's the first thing they say, I'm looking for a cap rate. I think I hear that more than anything else. And it's risk versus reward. In California, forgive me for not updating this chart, but cap rates have been falling even since 2000, this rate here, they're going down because prices are going up. So a low cap rate might be 0 to 3%. For instance, if someone's buying in Coronado or Pacific Beach, Mission Beach, La Jolla, prime location, they might pay under 3% cap rate. A moderate rate might be 3 to 5, or a high risk might be 11 to 20% cap rate. Sounds wild, but someone that's doing flipping wants to maybe flip and buy a couple houses in a year so that they can have a higher cap rate. So this is my key slide, rate versus return. If they want a safe investment, Coronado, prime location, limited inventory, high rents, they feel really safe. They don't mind paying top dollar. They're going to pay they're going to have a lower cap rate. And this chart, I think, is a fun one. If you sat with someone that was learning about cap rate, to sit and show them this one would be a good idea. We're almost to the finances. So here's a fun property to talk about. If you look at this right now, I can tell you right now that has a GRM of 19.58 and a cap rate just above 3.1. 3.4 range. Now, how do I know that? All they've told me is it's listed for 739. I probably in escrow. This was 10 days. I printed this about a week ago. So I'm sure they're in escrow. 37, they tell us in the gross scheduled income is 37,740. So that's their total rents they're receiving in a year. They're telling us that this is the total rents they're receiving. So they've given me the price and they're giving me the gross income. I can do a gross rent multiplier by dividing price by income. And it tells me a gross rent multiplier is 19.58. So that's a great number to know. So what does it mean? We're going to learn that. But just there, I can tell. And how did I come up with the cap rate? Because I know how to calculate a cap rate and using an estimate of expenses to get into a net operating income. So this is just by looking at this, you could quickly get an idea of how well this property is priced. And maybe what it could project what the cap rate, actually with market rents here, I think the cap rate could be well above a 4.25 to 4.5. So this is a great investment, great location, great units. If you read it, location, 2 homes, they sound in good condition. They sound like there's plenty of parking. They have their own washing machines. There's a room for an ADU. Boy, I love this property. But this is where we get into financial issues that start to be interesting. In the San Marcos, Vista, and Escondido zip codes, there was only 7 properties available. They're called 2 to 4 units that were available. And if you look down the income here, the first one gave us, the first one gave us their gross schedule income. The second one has a triplex and they're only bringing in 23,000. So they have 3 units, but for some reason they're asking more money, but they're bringing in less income. Interesting. Here's one that's bringing in 2 units that has 41,000 for 825, going up, a little bit better income. Oh, the fourth one tells me it's only 4,000 a year. That's triggering us. They're not calculating what the total income is. So this agent has not provided the full, this person hasn't provided the full income. And either this one, they're asking for a lot of money, but aren't telling us the income. In this report, you might be able to find it somewhere else on the sheet, but just this summary chart is not telling us it. That's what I found as a problem with investment units, is that a lot of properties, here's sold in the same zip codes, Escondido, all of Escondido, San Marcos, and Vista. Look how many down here that are not giving us anything about income. So how
Judy, you know what I noticed on that last page?
Yep.
Is the days on market correlate with the lack of information that they have. So that 0 and the 4,000, they're both like, one of those was like 153 days on the market. Yeah.
Oops.
There's a reason for that, because it doesn't have enough information for anyone to actually be, for it to be appealing to anyone.
Yeah, there's something that's exactly the right thing, Lydell, is that's a trigger of what's going on there. What's going on, why that hasn't sold. But you look overall, we're seeing a lot of agents don't give that. Now, why don't they do that? One is the seller may be property owned by a mom and pop, if you will, and they don't keep track of it, or they didn't tell the agent the information yet. One's vacant, they've been leaving vacant for years, and now they're ready to sell the property. They're letting their niece live in the property. They're living in one of the there's reasons. But as a good listing agent, you should try to find out, if you can, what's the income, or at least the projected income. You have to, it helps to know that. But as investors, us working with clients or us buying, we can figure out some of this information to make this stronger. And that's what I'm going to show you today. But this is the element we're up against 2 to 4 units is we've got to do some homework. So as these 5 units have come on the market, how do we get to a cap rate, or how do we get to a gross rent multiplier? How well the expenses if they're not provided? And there's some generic items, factors I'm going to share with you that I would use. This is from 2018, just as an example. It hasn't changed. Here it again. Oops. Here it again. Here's company agents not providing that information. And I just wanted to show you that from a few years ago. So the difference between the residential purchase, the people we've been working with a lot on the residential side, is this is about money. This is about income. This is about an investment property. So your factors of why you're buying this is shifts. You can't just look at it. Someone likes the living room, kitchen layout with the yard. What's the income? And that's what this is about studying today. So our basic goals, we've all taken our real estate exams, so we know the market value is, really what someone going to pay and what someone will sell for. And today we're in a market that a lot of people are paying way over price to purchase a property. The investor is looking at a property for the income. And it really comes down to the perspective of our client. What are they trying to achieve? If they're wanting a 5 cap rate, then a property's got to be producing a good dollar amount, and you've got to pay less for the property. So we have to look at how do we get there. The basic concepts for an appraiser is different than a residential. We talk about, they look at comparables. We do that with residential. What properties, like kind, apple to apple, do we care? A condo in one complex, the best comp would be one in the same unit in the same complex. Same thing with houses. Be nice to buy look at the same house. It's an apple to apple. Well, we know they're not always simplified that way, that appraisers use additions and subtractions from property to kind of bring together what a comparable property would be as a comp to a sale. They also use the value if it burnt down and they had to rebuild it. They use the cost approach. But look at the last one. That's where they start to use the cap rate, and they want to know the net operating income. So that's where the cap rate gets important. What's interesting is 2 to 4 units base also the value on the agent, the buyer qualifying for the property. They want to make sure that you can qualify for the property. So they use maybe 75% of the income of that property to help you qualify. They make a comment of the cap rate, but the detail of 5 or more units really get into the cap rate and net operating income to a higher level. So these are the methods of financial formulas that we're kind of going to go over. So there's the gross rent multiplier and the cap rate. Some likes cash on cash. And we're going to go through these elements of why they're important. So starting with the gross rent multiplier, what I have to ask you is if you have a calculator, an Excel spreadsheet, or your phone, if you can get that out, because you're going to find more value in this if you kind of work the financial numbers with me. So a gross rent multiplier, it's basically just the purchase price divided by the gross income. So on that first property that I spoke about on 4th Avenue, I wasn't such a smart, so sharp. It was just the purchase price divided by the rent they're telling me. I want to believe, are they getting the rents they're getting? For instance, they said on this property on, let me go back real quick to that. They said on this property that they were getting in the front house, which is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,850 square feet. And in the back house, which is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house, a little bit bigger, $13.50. So if you know Escondido and you know those smaller homes, those rents feel low. Actually, this agent's projecting that each property, each house could bring in $2,300 each. So they're saying that they could bring in about $4,600 a month. So knowing income is really knowing rents. So when someone doesn't give us what an income can be, if we can know what the value of the rent is on the property, then we can use these formulas without that agent giving it to us. So how can we do that? We can look at other properties nearby. We can ask a property nearby. We can go on Craigslist and look to see what people are asking for. There's apartments.com, there's rental meter. There's all these little programs out there will say what people are doing in a certain area and what rents they're paying. So we can get pretty strong backup to support what we think rents would be. Price per square foot is another one. If someone has 1,000 square feet, and they're paying $3,000, they're paying $3 a square foot. We can start to see averages in an area also. So when we look at this, the 37,340 is under rented, under market. So going back to the gross rent multiplier, having your calculator, you take the list price divided by scheduled income. So let's, if you don't mind, let's just practice a couple. So take 785,000 and divide by 60,000 and type in to Lydell what that multiplier is.
So put your answers in the chat and I'll read them off.
Yeah, just a couple people, first couple.
We have a 13.8, a 13.0, I'm sorry, 13.08, 13, they're all at 13.0.
Okay, so everybody's getting that one. So go to the next one, 695 divided by 40.
Looks like everyone is hovering right around 17, 17.3.
Perfect. And then the last one.
The last one being 1.9 and 95,000. First one is 20. Second one is 20.
Yeah, 20. So if you didn't get, so what's important about this, thank you for taking the time to do those three, because if you've got to be able to know that formula inside out, that's simple. Because when something comes on the market and you just divide that, it's going to give you a snapshot, just a quick snapshot. Is that property in the range of what's pricing in the area? What happens is this gross rent multiplier, you start to see areas have a trend. So just remember that formula. So the gross rent multiplier is just a quick, it's just a quick way to get to a number. And its advantages is it's quick and it's easy and it's something you can do and your client can do. It's a fun way to do it, because when you start to know the GRM in an area, you can know right away if they're high or low of the average, why? If they're higher than the average, do they have better unit mix? Are they in better condition? Are they in a better location? All of that starts to play into it. And then the disadvantages, just like I showed you this chart here, it only thought of gross of your income. It's not asking all these other questions. That's why it's only worth a thumbnail quick value, but it's still a good one to use. Another one that agents, clients like to use is price per unit. If you bought an 8-plex in North Park and you paid $385,000 a unit, you're getting a property that probably needs work. Someone paying $425 a unit might be already remodeled. So price per unit's important. And so again, it's just taking the purchase price divided by the number of units. Not hard to do, right? I think everybody can see that. But you see now you have the GRM and you have price per unit. So when you interview with clients and they go, I buy per unit, I want to see 300 a door. I want to buy 400 a door. Now you know where they're coming from with that.
Judy, do you want to hold off on the questions?
Yes.
Okay.
So this, let's get through this and I'll open up for it. So this price per unit I didn't put here, but that's one of the formulas. Let's get to the next one. The price per unit, again, same thing, is that it's not really taking into account a lot of things, but it's something that an agent, a lot of clients and agents use to get a quick rule of thumb. 2 to 4 units is a little more difficult because you might have a 2-unit, you might have a house with a studio, you might have a house with a studio and a garage conversion. You never know, right? So the unit per unit is a little tough because are you comparing the same type of units is a bigger concern. Now, before we go to the cap rate, we have to move into what's called net operating expenses. Operating expenses for 2 to 4 units. So notice it's what's in here is advertising, business tax, gardening, maintenance, repairs, pest, property insurance, property management, property taxes. You notice no mortgage. The mortgage is not considered a part of operating expenses. So that's not in here. Insurance should be on this list. There's other things that could be on this list, but mortgages are not. Once you have all of this, usually in a 2 to 4 unit, your expenses are in the range of 28 to 38%. So remember when I went to I'm picking on 4th Street. So remember I said the cap rate? Well, the reason I could do that is I took that income, everybody take that income of 37,740. Take 37,740 and minus 35%. That's I minus 13,000, and that gives me income left to pay my mortgage, but income left of 24,531. Is that what everyone came up with? Can you tell Idell, is that a yes?
That's correct.
So all I had to do was take
2553. I'm sorry.
right. Yeah, to be exact, yes.
Yes.
So all I had to do was take that gross schedule income, subtract 35%, and it gave me a cap rate. So everybody do that. Take the 24,531 and divide it by 739. What is that? Should be a 3 cap rate, 3.4, 3.1, 3.4. $37,740 minus 35% equals 24,531 divided by the purchase price of 739.
We're getting 3.3, 3.2, 3.3.
Okay, so let's all match that up. 37,740 minus 35% divided by 739 equals what are people typing?
33.19 is the newest number.
19.
I'm sorry, 3.3, 3.3.
Yep. There we go. Thanks. Thank you.
Was I saying 33 this whole time?
No. You
Okay.
just said the word 9. So you can see, even though this agent only gave us the price, did give us the income. If we use the average of expenses, that cap rate is somewhere in that 3.5 range. So that's where knowing the tools and being really good and comfortable, let's say, to getting there, it helps us to go right there and get us an estimated cap rate. Some people go lower than 28, go lower than 35. Notice I'm saying 38, 28 to 38. This is because some people say, hey, I'm going to manage it myself. I'm not going to pay 5 or 8% property management. I'm going to save that. But when I'm comparing price, I'm going to use a minimum of 35. I'm going to say to my client, you'll do better than this. But when we're comparing pricing, we want to compare at 35%. So I use 35% as my baseline. I hope that makes sense. Once I know my expenses, I can now get into the net operating income. Potential income minus vacancy, plus if there's any other income for laundry or whatever, gross income minus expenses equals the net operating income. So in 2 to 4 units, the lender doesn't necessarily use vacancy. They might ask if there's been vacancy, but they really use income to help qualify the buyer. On 5 or more units, a lender puts in 5%, even though San Diego's less than 3, they put in 5. It's a pad to say, look, you might have some vacancy, we're putting it in there. So it's gross income minus a vacancy, and basically we get to the net operating income. So the cap rate is simple. It's net operating income divided by purchase price. That's it. What are the strengths? It's taking into account the operating expenses, but it's not bringing in all the other factors. So it's only a snapshot of how a property is being managed that 1 year, a snapshot of a year. So it's not the best method. It's one method. It's not the best method necessarily to evaluate a property. But a lot of investors stop there. They just want to see that cap rate, and that's what they use. So you've got to know all these variables so you can talk the language with the client you're working with. So the cap rate, I like to think of that. I like to think of a cap rate higher than what I'm borrowing the money for. I like to have positive leverage. I'd like to see borrowing money at 3 and getting a cap rate at 4. I'd like to see a positive leverage, positive cash flow on the property over what I'm paying the bank. The next one people like is cash on cash. Cash on cash is the money you're making on the investment you put in. So after I pay everything, the actual cash that's left, what am I really making on that cash flow? So people get to the point of, I want to know how much cash I'm making on the money that I've got into the investment. So cash on cash is important for people. And again, there's advantages and disadvantages of cash on cash. So you can see every formula starts to go down further down the list of why something's a good investment. Love to do another class with you getting into really an IRR, internal rate of return, because it takes in the mortgage, it takes in how long a property is held, it takes in someone's personal taxes, it takes in depreciation. So it's just a much better tool, but it's not something that investors do right at the start.
Shirley, I think we have lots of witnesses here that can attest to the fact that Judy is willing to come back and do more.
Oh.
We got you on record.
So here's an example. This was La Mesa. And forgive me, I used the same template on this example. It's 3 years ago, so don't get excited. This is not available, and they didn't pay that recently. But notice this property they gave us a little bit of information, units and price and projected rents. They did all of these things, which kind of is nice. But I want to take that and have you do a little more homework. Here is exercise 1. Here's we're starting. This looks like actually that first sheet when we did the CMA. Work with me on this just for a minute. Do the first Nancy Drive. Right now, we don't know price per unit. So just quickly do $695 divided by 2. Even if this is boring and it's below your skill, do it anyway. Price divided by $695 divided by 2. Now, how do we figure out GSI? What we know is that there's 2 units. We know that the total square footage of the 2 units is 1,400 square feet. So these are 2 700 square foot units or something, 1,400. And we know they're paying $2 a square foot. So if I do 1,400 times $2, it's $2,800 a month this is generating. Well, there's 12 months in a year. So multiply 2,800 times 12, and you have your GSI. How much is that? $33,600?
That's what I got. And it looks like we have a couple of them at 34. Oh, I see. They didn't do the decimal. I'm getting some that are 347,500.
So you got to try it again then, because you should get the same answer. So 1,400 times $2 is 2,800 times 12 months is 33,600. So write that number down, everybody, 33,600. Now we need to know the GRM. So take 695 divided by the 33,600. What's the GRM?
$20.68.
Excellent. Bear with me and just do one more. Let's do Vista Drive, 725. What's the price per unit? Anybody give us an answer?
No.
Don't
Yes.
sleep yet.
There's a couple of numbers. They vary. There's 409. There's 362,500.
That's the answer. That's the answer. So
Okay.
725 divided by 2 is 362,500. Now, if we were in class, I would make you suffer to do all of these. Not suffer, but learn and grow and get good. Here's the answers to all of them. What's important here is I wanted to show you. If I did this in Escondido, La Mesa, Point Loma, if I've got a buyer that's going to buy something at $1 million, and I can do a chart for that area just to say, look, here's kind of been what's happening the last 6 months or the last 3 sales. They listed it for 7, they got $1 million for it. Whatever the answers are, if you could start knowing the financials. So look, just by us filling this out together, it's given me the average per unit. It's given me kind of the gross schedule income average. It's given me an average gross rent multiplier. It's given me a price per square foot for rents and the average market time. It's given me a kind of a snapshot of what's happening.
Can you share this Excel spreadsheet with us?
Yeah, I will. I'm going to give you this presentation so you have all of it.
But the actual working Excel spreadsheet, so that we can actually put the numbers in, the address and all that stuff and get these calculations. This is amazing.
Yeah, this is what's exciting is you can do these basic things. And so just as I was trying to make you go back and handwrite to do this, if you have Excel, you could put the formula right there and it calculates everything for you. So you can, but you can't get the spreadsheet. I'm going to give you the spreadsheet, but I have to say, you have to know why it works to make sure you can explain it and believe it. Always have to believe my numbers. So I gotta have that feeling. So definitely I'll give that to you. So again, this is really helpful to know. If this was in La Mesa, I could say, oh, the average rental gross rent multiplier over there, because I've taken the samples, was 16. Now when I see a property come on, I can say income times 16 and go, hey, that's priced really well. Or hey, that's way under market. It gives you an idea to negotiate or where to go from there. Just saying, the agents aren't giving us this. So you've got to put that factor of expenses at 35%. And you might have to figure out what the rents are, if they're good or not. You have to figure that out. So when you put those basics together, you can put this together. Let's see. This is another example just of another, if you were in a room with me, we would have done all this. Again, here's another example in the college area at that time. It gave me the average gross rent multiplier. It gave me the average expenses at 35%. It gave me the average rents. So see what I mean? You can really do this in an area and it just shows your client, here's the average cap rate over there. Now let's talk about that part. This is an example of an income and expense. Commercial brokers will do a nice brochure and have these. If you ever want to go and look at commercial property 5 or more, you'll find brochures where they actually do better presentations. So I encourage you to do that. But in this situation, here's this property bringing in $10,000 a month. They have a vacancy of only $500. They're per month. Their effective rent, they get some laundry money, no parking money. They bring in about $96.43 a month, and monthly. Annually, that's about $115,000. I go through the expenses. Taxes are based upon the new purchase price, right? One area might be 1.2% of the purchase price. El Cajon might be 1.4. You've got to check the area of what the tax rate is, because remember, it's 1% of the purchase price plus any bonds or extras that are added in. Like Ramona might have a higher charge because of ambulance service because it's further out, or you might have National City that has more because they charge for a different level for trash, type of things like that, or sewer. So you've got to know what the factor is. But you can see in residential 5 or more, this expenses are 41%. Something's off balance here, because in commercials 5 or more, usually I would use a 38 or 40% factor. It's a little bit more expensive to run 5 or more. So 2 to 4, I would use expenses of about 35%. 5 or more, I'm getting at 38 or 40%. So this just shows you how you calculate that. Here you have your income minus your expenses, gives you your net operating income. Are we okay with time still? Yeah, 3:35. So this is a sample of a rent roll. So this is what people need to put more time on. If you go to Chase Bank and look up rent roll, they've got a terrific free rent roll sheet. And it shows you what a 5 or more lender uses to establish a rent roll. It's not simply Bill's in the front unit and Kathy's in the back unit and they're paying $1,000. They get into how long do they live there. So this chart, we have Phillips moved in. He's in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. He moved in January 17th. He was on a 1-year lease, and his last increase was in January. This is older, right? So if you change the dates, but what's important here is it tells me their security deposit, what their current rent is, what it is for a year, the unit size, the price per square foot, and if they're behind in rent. And it tells me if the unit's occupied or not. That's telling me a lot about what's going on with that property. The next one, Thomas, moved in a lot earlier than that. They're on month to month, and they're only at $1,000. Again, this is older, but his rent's $1.67. So this tells you, are all the units at market rents or below, or how far below? How long have they been there? If they've been there 5, 7, 8 years, what kind of condition is that property in? Why is that getting more money than that one? So this is invaluable information when you're trying to help someone buy a good unit mix or good units. You've got to know what's the tenant's about. Is it the owner's cousin that's living in one, or their daughter or their son? Is that why there's no rents or low rent? Is it someone that they just have been thoughtful and let them stay there for 20 years, but never did any repairs in the unit? So all of this is really critical about, again, knowing what income is about. So this is a spreadsheet I use that I would share with you. So this is Comanche. They told me this property on Comanche, they said their income was down here, 74,940. So I said, okay. And then to expenses, they said 24,000. Okay. So I come over here and I put it on the sheet. There's their income. And my formula is already calculated, gross schedule income, a vacancy, and no other income. Expenses, they said, are 24,990. I just took their number, and they didn't break it out. They just put taxes and this. That's all they did for me. And look at 32,000, 32%. But you know what? That's not good enough for me and my clients. I want to kind of get a feel. I know investment units better. So I take this and I say, I'm going to adjust what you're telling me on expenses. The taxes they show are not at the current purchase price. Just that alone raised really was 43.9. That's something's going on there, right? So that's where knowing expenses are very important. So I take it a step further. What should the expenses be? So I thought that out, and it came to 25, a little bit more of what they had. And that's really about 35%. So this property was offered at $991, but someone paid $1,075. They had offered it at a cap rate of about 4.9, but actually calculating this out and paying more, someone received it for 4.39. That was a good buy. But I know it's a good buy because I analyzed the numbers. I feel good about the income. I feel good. I've talked to the expenses through my client, right? So this really helped make it a better purchase versus just saying, hey, come on the market. You want to write? This just you can put it in a spreadsheet and it just makes us really make sense. So if you notice what's not in here, this annual debt service, this is the item this is the critical issue when you want to get into cash on cash. These formulas are here's our gross rent multiplier, our cap rate, our loan rate at the time, number of units, price per unit. Cash on cash is a little bit low. People like to see a higher return on their money, cash. Total square footage and monthly rent. I really know about this property. Can you feel the difference? Then looking at the very first one, I've got it down here. But I also feel good that I have the expenses better spread out for the client. So the next step I wanted to say was the 1031 exchange. You know, the current administration, we're talking about really changing the 1031 exchange and possibly taking it away or making it harder. It's still available. So sometime this year we saw people move away from the 1031 exchange. I think the key question is, if your people have property right now, where do they want their money to be in 3, 4, 5 years? So the reason I say it that way is, let's say someone owns a property free and clear. They own the house and the units, and they have $1.5 million, and they want to go buy another set of units. they can refinance, pull the money they need out and go buy that other property and keep both properties. So if they say, I want to sell my property to buy something else, you really got to talk about what's the best thing. Should they sell it, or should they sell it to buy something else? They don't have the tax consequences. That's where a sophisticated and professional can talk about all the options someone has, and they can talk to their CPA and their financial advisor to figure out what's best for them. But it's not like, just help me sell this place. It's, what can I do that's best for them? I had a lady a few years ago had 6 individual houses, and she wanted to buy an 8-plex. And I said, great. What do you owe on, give me an example. Do you owe anything on any of your properties? Oh, they're all free and clear. Oh, and you want to sell them?
Yeah.
They're owning single family homes is kind of smart. I'd probably keep them. That's how I felt. And I said, if you really need to have an 8-plex, let's do it. But refinance one of those houses, or even 2, keep them, and then buy your 8-unit. So you've got to have thoughts of what's best for the client to teach them their options and then let them make their decisions. So that's why it's important to understand the 1031 exchange, taking some seminars. You know, there's the pros and cons, there's free books. This company here allows you to put your name on the here so you can pass it out and you can use it as a promo piece to give someone that talks about the pros and cons and the booklets. And I'm not promoting one, there's a checklist, but there's some good companies out there for 1031 exchange. They all teach classes, they all have booklets and pamphlets and things to help a client. If someone's going to do it into another state, they got all the information you need. So look one of these companies up, take one of their classes. Actually, Shirley will probably do one. It would be great for her to bring Exeter in, or one of the companies, to do a class too, because it's always good to stay informed of what's happening with the 1031 exchange. So let's open up for a few minutes for questions and see if I can answer them or need to call someone back.
Okay, so I'm going to go at the top here and see what we have. I know the one question that I had was creating. So I have several separate investors, and some of them want to get together and invest together. So I'm going to be creating an LLC with 4 different names on it. Is that the best approach, or what are your thoughts on that?
So that's a great way to combine incomes and people. So lessons I've learned along the way is a partnership needs to be well defined, and there's risk tolerance. Just a few quick stories is I had an investor that invested with friends, not through me, but with people in Texas. And they had to, they had small 2 to 4 units, and they went into a big commercial property with somebody. And they had to replace the roof. And instead of a water heater for $150, replacing a roof at a much bigger property was $10,000. So the key is, when you're with investors, having the meeting of the minds. How much are we each putting in? Are we all going on the loan? How long are we going to hold the property together? Let's have an attorney write up the partnership agreement. You really have to have your I's dotted and T's crossed so that you go in as friends and you remain as friends.
Exactly. That's good
Because
advice.
what happens is 3 years goes down the road and you go, we've decided we're holding for 5 years. You have to have an agreement. If someone pulls out early, what do you do about it?
Right.
Do they get their full money, 10%, half? You know, all of that's important. So there's a lot of good planning that goes into doing that, but it's good. You just do good planning.
Exactly. And have everything in writing.
Yes, and there's experts in that. And crowdfunding, you can pull money together. There's a lot of good seminars out there if you want to do that to take.
Okay.
I'm not the expert in forming partnerships, but there's some good people out there that do.
Wonderful. Barbara says, what about areas with low turnover, long-term tenants, so lower GRM?
So I'm not sure what the question is.
Yeah, I think it was related to one of the topics that you were doing in the beginning. Maybe she'll chime in and actually reiterate
just so
the
you-
question.
Just to kind of speculate what the question may be is, areas have different GRMs, areas have different cap rates, rental rates, all of that goes by location and condition, etc. But a GRM, when you buy a property and it's a very good question, because what is the current rent? And if you think, oh, it's 1,800, just like the first property we saw on 4th Avenue in Escondido, just because the rents currently are at 1,850 and 1,350, what does it take to get to 2,300? It may have a long-term tenant in there that needs a 60-day notice, or they might be in a lease for another year. So you can't just change rents so quickly. You've got to deal with the tenants and the situation and the condition of the property, and you might have vacancy while you fix it up. So all of that has to be brought into your factoring of if it's a good buy.
Got it. Is the investment amount the amount of money in the loan or sales price or something else?
Your investment is the money you're putting in. So you have your down payment, your cost in investigating the property, your closing costs, all that's your initial investment.
Okay. And still scrolling through here. I know we have a lot more questions coming in as well. What makes sense in terms of comparison boundaries, cities, zip codes? What about impact of schools on prices, rents? Do you factor any of that in?
Yeah, that's location. So for instance, you find like, just think in Escondido, San Marcos, and Vista, there was 56 properties in general for residential income properties. That's not a large amount. When you go to North Park, Normal Heights, North Park, Normal Heights, Hillcrest, 921 Mission Hills area, you have a lot more units. And so finding residential income properties, you're going to find it in like Claremont doesn't have that many. Pacific Beach has a lot. So you've got to find your investment properties in the neighborhoods, and then you make decisions on location. Your client will. Do they want a trophy property? Do they want to be near a school? Do they want to be near a hospital? Do they mind if it's on a busy street? All of those things are still key factors. Today was about financials, really, not necessarily about critiquing the property. I think like unit mix, outside space, parking, other amenities on the property all play a key aspect. And where you are closest to schools, and that, sure, that plays a part.
Okay. And Susan wants to know if we are getting a copy of the actual Zoom presentation or just the PowerPoint. And I think we're getting both.
It's this, yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah. And do you need to confirm rents and security deposits with actual bank accounts? That's from Haiti.
So in 2 to 4 units, sometimes, like I said, depending who's managing the property, they might not have the greatest of information to provide you. They might not have rental agreements. An individual investor of a property should have a Schedule E on their tax return. If they have a 2 to 4 unit, they should be reporting to the government that they had X income and these expenses. And you can ask for a Schedule E or a profit and loss statement if they have a property manager. So you ask the listing agent for financial information to provide to prove what's happened on the property. On 5 or more, banks want to see proof of 2 to 3 years of past income. And usually a 5 or more has a property manager.
Makes sense. And can a single family residence with an ADU classify as a residential income? I think the answer is yes, but I'll let you answer.
Those are changing time. I think I like your answer, but I have to say that we're in a changing market of the state is allowing us to do ADUs. But I was reading the lender's questionnaire couple weeks ago about, a granny flat, grandfathered in, garage conversion, ADU, so extra unit. There's all these different names and variables out there. But if you're buying a property and they say, I'm getting $1,000 for my garage I converted. Well, you as an investor should know if that's a legal unit or not. You need to do your investigations. Is it a legal unit?
And if it is, then the answer is yes.
Yes.
Right. And okay. Oh, yes. So Shirley just responded and said, yes, we will have the recording tomorrow. So that's great. Can you email a spreadsheet with formulas and information on it? Yes, I think we got that answer. Lots of thank yous, lots of great stuff, really good information. And Shirley also says that we have a 1031 tax exchange webinar scheduled for February 17th. And there's a link here for you guys to register if anyone wants to.
Good.
And can you please email the spread? Yes, we're going to send that Excel spreadsheet. Would you like me to unmute Barbara so she can ask a question? Oh, I don't know if it's too late for that. I don't know if Barbara's left already.
If I may, I tell you that there's software out there, Star Analyzer is a great software. It's not expensive. And they've got great teaching tools on the software. You'll love it. I don't know what their price is. It used to be $199. It might be a little bit more than that. But you can put in a property and you can push on a button and it says what a cap rate. It's just great stuff. Star Analyzer. I don't have any stock in it. I've used it over the years. It's a good program. And if you start to use it, I think you're going to just love it.
What's the cost on it?
I think it's near a couple $100, I think.
And
Well
one-time
worth
fee,
it.
or is that year?
Huh? Per
Is
year.
that just
Per
per
year.
year? Okay.
I think they charge $50 a year after that. It's cheap.
Yeah, that is cheap considering, you get one sale in 5 years and it pays for it. And then
Their
some.
company name is called Wandering Star, and the software is Star Analyzer.
Wandering Star. Got it.
So
Okay. And Barbara says the question that she asked had to do with judgment and helping clients figure out options. For example, I have seen turnover rates of 1% in Carlsbad, and I would expect to see lower numbers in those areas.
Okay.
And do you have an email list that we can opt on to? Do you have an email list? Like, do you send out regular emails maybe once a month or weekly, kind of updating people?
If you want to, if Shirley wants to give me the list and someone wants to email me, they can.
Okay. But you don't do anything like that on a regular basis?
I have not recently, but I have something under work, so I can keep someone up to date if they want.
Okay. And that was the last of our questions.
Great. Well, I wish you all the very best. Make some money, do some investing, and keep learning.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for taking the time, and we will see you next time. Oh, wait. Does Star Analyzer work on all commercial properties?
Yeah, it allows for commercial properties. It's a there's other higher level sophisticated software programs, but I think it's a good one.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I think everyone else on here will as well. Thanks again.
Here's my email address if anyone wants it.
Awesome. So she's putting her email address in here as well. There it is.
You want to check and see if anybody have any haves and wants. They want to do a little mini marketing session?
Yeah, if you guys have any wants or needs that you want to let us know about, any upcoming listings, anything that's currently on the market that's not moving and you'd like to see if maybe we could get some movement for you, anything at all? No?
Going once, going twice.
And I am putting her email address in. There you go.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, well, buyer needed. Andrew, buyer needed 1 million to 1 million to 2.5 million.
Lydell, why don't I unmute Andrew and then he can do his promo?
Perfect. Talk to us, Andrew.
Let me find him first.
And it looks like Angela is interested as well.
Can you hear me?
Okay, Angela, you're unmuted.
We can hear you, Andrew.
Hi, I was just stating that one of my clients, well, he just reached out. We sold a property for him back in December, and initially he was going to pay the taxes on the property sale. We recommended that just as a backup to talk to an accommodator and go through the 1031 process. We convinced him to do that, and luckily we did, because he just spoke with his CPA earlier this week, and they said, oh no, you actually should do a 1031. So he's got 3 days left on his 1031 exchange, and he has identified 0 properties so far. So we're looking for something if anyone's got any new listings, or if they're about to list something.
And their budget is 1 million to 2.5.
That's correct. He has about a 1.1 in cash. So that means he can probably go up to like 2.6, maybe 2.7. Depends on what type of property and what type of loan. I know some single tenant triple net, they don't like the loan as aggressively compared to like multifamily. They could probably go down to like 35% loan to value. So yeah, or I should say 65.
Okay. And thank you for that, Andrew. Don, do you want to unmute? Oh, I'm sorry. We got Angela right now.
I've got Angela.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, we have a 1.15 acre property in Vista, south of.
Uh-oh. We lost her.
You got me?
Yep, you're back.
Okay. All right. We have a 1.15 acre property in Vista. It is a single family with room for up to 3,000 square feet of shop garage space, in addition to 1,250 square feet of ADU that can be built, plus junior ADU, and there is a granny in place. It's a total rehab property. It's 829,000. I'm expecting it to land between the 9s and 1 million. It is 1319 Ridge Road in Vista, south side of the 78, near Carlsbad and Oceanside border. And then I'm looking for a tap room, preferably North Park area, but any kind of, I'd like to say hipster type area in San Diego, PB, Encinitas. We already have an Oceanside location, but they're looking for another tap room / restaurant. So if anybody has any leads on that, let me know, and I'll put my information in the chat. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Don, did you want to chime in on your Belize Island?
Sure. Hi, how are you?
Hey, Don, long time no see.
Right. So I have a few islands that I am working with the seller to sell in Belize. One is a large island. All of them are islands that can be renovated. One is actually a working resort right now, and it can be expanded. It's on a 10-acre island. The island is 10 acres, I'm sorry. About 4.5 acres are currently developed already. It's an off-grid location, so literally it's running with everything from solar to water to all the things around it, and homes on it and all the things. So That one is 5 million. I have one that needs more work. That's a larger island. It's 40 plus acres. It's 75 million. We're looking for a larger investor to come in on that one and develop it to an island resort. So those are the two that I'll talk about now. I also have a hotel that's already up and running over there too. So if someone's interested in a hotel outside of the country, I have a few things, plus some land, plus some homes and some other things. So
All of these are in Belize?
yes.
Awesome.
So if you look at my website, hotelsandislands.com, you'll see all the things that I have available and the pricing. But I'm specifically trying to find a new owner for the $75 million island, not because it's the biggest, but because we've had it the longest. And we really want to move it. The client is getting a little anxious. So
Fair enough. Barbara wants to know, are you getting this information in the Bay Area? Evidently, there's some high rollers up there.
Not yet, Barbara, but if I can be invited to do a presentation or to do some sort of haves wants at one of the Bay Area meetings, I'm more than willing to get on a Zoom or get on a plane.
That's awesome. And it looks like we have a connection with Andrew and Susan. You guys might be able to garnish a deal here. I like that. And we have Susan on now. Susan, you want to unmute yourself?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I have a listing coming up. It's in Granada Hills. The ADU is a brand new build. It's 635 square feet. It's just a 1-bedroom. And then open floor plan, single family residence. It's in the prime area of Granada Hills in LA County. And what else? And it's like highly coveted school district. Where there's Granada Hills High School is the charter. So.
Okay. Thank you for that information. Angela, your hand's raised. Did you want to chime in again? Can we unmute Angela? Oh, she just
I lowered my head, sorry.
okay, she just lowered her hand. I think that's it. Angela, you just put in all the information about your property, the 12-acre. Actually, it looks like there's a couple of them on here. That's
Yeah,
good.
there's an additional 12-acre avocado farm that our office is putting out. It's got 90K in revenue this year with the crops, and it's in Valley Center. So you can reach out for more information on that.
Awesome. Wow. That was a great idea. I think that we should start doing that going forward, like you suggested, having some, after the meeting, having a kind of a powwow, a little caravanish pitch session. So good stuff, guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it for us. I don't see any further questions. No other
All right.
hands up. Judy, thanks again.
Thanks, Judy. Thanks, Lydell.
You're welcome.
And we'll see you tomorrow at the grand opening in Carlsbad.
Yes, you will. I will be there. Hope to see all of you guys there as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.